Unsolved.
Episode 204, JonBenet Case, The Unthinkable. What do we know about John Ramsey? He is a little bit aloof, arrogant maybe. He was more involved in his business life than his family's life. Yet, there's nothing really that extreme about his personality that is apparent. What do we know about Patsy Ramsey? She was self-absorbed, a little manic. Patsy was extremely concerned about her appearance and her family's appearance. And she spent a lot of time focusing on that with all the things that she did. And what about JonBenet? She was 6 years old, in kindergarten, and she was a beauty pageant winner. Multiple pageants. And she was valued for being a beauty pageant winner. And maybe she was a little bit manic depressive, where she was very high on her high moments and very low on her low moments. And this was built up, something she couldn't handle, something that was built up by Patsy. So, what about the possibility that after returning home from Fleet and Priscilla White's house and being exhausted from a long Christmas day, and after John and Burke were sleeping, there was some altercation between Patsy and JonBenet, and Patsy was very frustrated, and she did not injure or kill JonBenet. She just yelled at JonBenet, saying a lot of mean things, screaming at her to grow up, stop acting like a spoiled brat, and go get in bed. And say, after an hour of wrapping presents and getting ready for the trip, Patsy went to check on JonBenet, and maybe the unthinkable happened, that JonBenet had hanged herself. What would Patsy do? After the shock and grief of the incident, would Patsy have felt guilty and ashamed about what happened? Is it possible that Patsy would have felt responsible and not want to tell anyone about what had happened? Not want to tell her mom, her sisters, or friends? She might want to keep this away from Burke also. Not want to tell her husband John. And so she covered it up. Patsy took JonBenet to the basement, used the paintbrush to make the phony garrote, and then she wrote the phony ransom note. Patsy wasn't going to dispose of JonBenet's body. She would not be denied a proper burial. And hopefully John would not grow a brain or use his common sense, and it was up to him now to cover this up. And she was saved by the cross. JonBenet had to deal with a lot for a 6-year-old. JonBenet had to deal with knowing about her older half-sister's death and how much John Ramsey loved Beth. JonBenet had to deal with the possibility of her mother dying of cancer. And JonBenet was most likely being molested. And she was showing signs of stress, bedwetting. She wasn't doing very well in school, not like a child with two wealthy, college-educated parents. This would explain so much that Patsy nor John strangled JonBenet to death. But in fact, she strangled herself, and it explains the furrow being in her neck, the loop being in the back the scratching of her neck with her fingernails, and Patsy knowing that JonBenet died on December 25th, Christmas night. Well, no comments? No opinion? Nothing from you guys? Well, this ends this episode of Unsolved. And tomorrow night, Nancy Drew will be back on the Zodiac Killer case. So I'll see you then.